right, guys. Hey, guys. I hope that you're doing well today. Thank you for joining. As I mentioned before, I know how important is everyone's time. So that's why we try to make this very concise and to the point as possible. Try to get started so we can possibly do this in less than half an hour. Can anyone hear me well? Um, Give me 1 second. You guys don't mind just to write to put it on the chat so I know that my sound is okay. Okay, okay, perfect. Thank you, guys. Okay, so let me see. Share my screen. Okay, very good. All right, awesome. Okay, and guys, thank you. This is our webinar for May 2024. We're going to discuss today this great topic. Actually, that's one of the important topics before you start, before you decide investing. And this is also, in general, also true for real estate and for other ways of investing, alternative investments. So let me see. Can I do that? Okay. Yeah. So just a little bit about us again, like as you guys know, just to if anyone doesn't know me from before, we're two physician family, right? Like my wife and I, we have known each other for a long time already, since we were 19 years old. We were born and raised in Lima, Peru, in South America. We actually went to the same medical school. Actually, we were in the same class, so we knew each other like for a long time before we finished medical school. And actually, we decided to come here to the U.S. So we have been married for 17 years and have two boys, as you can see here in the pictures. This picture here on the right top is from a year and a half ago. Now they are 12 and 8. I'm a full-time pulmonary critical care doc here working in Dallas Fort Worth in Texas and Baylor. And my wife is a family medicine doctor. Right, like we have been in real estate for about 7 years, the time that we have been here in Dallas. And initially in residential real estate, we still own long-term rentals. And the last three and a half years in commercial real estate and apartment complexes and development. So this is a topic for today, right? Like active, and I cannot see the chat box in this moment, but I promise like at the end when I have like a little bit of time, like to go over some questions and answers, right? So active versus passive real estate investor, right? Like so, should you be an active or a passive real estate investor? And that's probably like the one of the first questions that you should ask yourself before you embark in this kind of journey. Honestly, and I always tell this to anyone that I talk to, friends or possible investors, there's no right or wrong answer, honestly, right? Like I'm not gonna be like maybe other groups or other active investors that tells you no, you should only invest actively. I mean, like actually or passively. I mean, actually, I think that there's good reasons for being active or being passive, right? Like, so I'm just going to put out there like the differences in general. 10 factors that you should take into account. They're going to help you decide what would you prefer. And again, as I was saying before, there's no right or wrong answer. It just depends on your personal situation, on your preferences, and also on your time, right? Tenants, termites, and toilets, or tenants, toilets, and termites. I'm not sure if you have heard this expression before, right? Like this is something that many landlords or owners of long-term rentals deal with this very often, right? If you're an active investor, this is for those who dreamt of becoming a landlord, having tenants and making improvements. I mean, at some point you can also get a property manager, right? Like again, but that will affect your return on investment, right? Like, so you need to have that into account. Being passive, a passive investor, and that can be if you don't want to deal with tenant calls or screening or repairs. If you don't like that, you probably go this route. Okay. And just want to let you know that it's not all white and black. Like these are like again like the definitions for or kind of like to help you decide on this. But again, like there are many grays in between. Number two, time. I think this is an important topic, right? Like because most of us are professionals, are physicians, are in healthcare. I mean, I don't know, like some of you are new in this call, like your backgrounds, right? But I think this is an important topic, right? Like because time is something that doesn't come back. If you already have a full-time job, then it may be difficult like to get another activity or like business. Active investments require more time during the initial acquisition, but also throughout the project life cycle and ownership. And passive investing mainly requires your time up front, right, during the research phase. As I'm telling you, like I'm a long-term rental investor, right? Like, and for sure, I have a property manager, but even with that, I weekly spend a good amount of time with them on the phone for XYZ reasons, right? Like, so even with a property manager, you're still gonna need to devote time to if you're an active investor. For passive investors, again, it doesn't mean that you're not gonna put any time, but it's usually more upfront, right? Like when you are doing your research, when you're meeting your the operators, the syndicators, when you're reviewing the investment summaries or the investment offerings, and again, like when you're doing like the due diligence, right? Like the initial due diligence, and when you're signing the papers, when you're reviewing the documents, when you're sending the money and all of that. After you sign and after you send your capital to, I mean, any kind of project, right? Like either in real estate or in other fields, then it really becomes passive, right? Like you're still going to be in contact with with the operator, but as a passive investor, you don't have any responsibilities in the investment. So that's important to know. Number three, the involvement. Being an active investor obviously means being hands-on. You're going to need like to manage the property yourself, tenant requests, schedules, maintenance, and repair appointments, right? And you can do it yourself or your partner or your spouse, or you can hire actually again as a property manager or someone who manages your property if you, for example, are in the short-term rental space, right? But or even like in the multifamily space, if you're an active investor, I mean, at some point it that may become like a second job. As a passive investor, that's the good part of it, right? Like so you sit back while someone else does all of that for you. Still, you get information at regular intervals. For syndications, which we have done in the past, we usually keep our investors informed. Like we usually send information about the properties and how the business plan is going every month. Usually, like the financials, we send every 3 months, and every year we send the K1s, which is the tax documents. Number four, profits. Right. And I just want to be clear, just want to be very transparent. I personally feel that when you and some real estate investors, some real estate operators may disagree with me, but I personally feel that when you're an active investor, right? Like let's say like you do a flip, you flip a house, or you are a landlord, long-term investor, long-term rental investor, or a short-term rental investor, the possibility for a better return on investment is higher when you're active. Still, I mean, it depends. It goes deal to deal or investment to investment, right? But again, like you in active, being an active investor, you would likely be the only owner of the property, so you would keep any net profits. Like again, like the ROI or return on investment, I believe likely higher than passive. Passive investments, the profits are distributed among many investors, including the active investors, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, right? Like again, like because you need to put like in a you need to wait on what's more important for you. Again, like the profits, the return on investment, or your time and your effort, right? And that's different for everyone. Okay, now expenses. Every investment has pros and cons. Every investments have ups and downs, good times and bad times, right? Like so, with active investments, just like, for the example of the single family homes, being an active investor, you should plan, and I also plan to handle any emergencies, right? Like insurance claims, emergencies, and repair, which may require additional money at times. Many times, what we do, like long-term rental investors, is that we save some of the rental or the cash flow that we get every month, and we put like aside, right? Like as what we call that, that's for capex or for repairs, right? Like so we don't need to get money out of pocket in case there's an emergency. For passive investors, you only make the initial capital investment, right? And after that, like everything is handled by the operator. But again, like even passive investments, I mean, like they are not guaranteed 100%, right? Like so, I'm not sure if you may have heard that there because of the very quick changes in the interest rates in the last 2 years. There's some properties and like especially like in the multifamily space that are a little bit in trouble, right? Like so, and in some of the projects, the operators have asked for more money for the project to stay afloat, but usually that's not the usual case, right? Like so, usually your involvement and the capital that you invest is only upfront and only once. risks and liability. And that's something that you need to understand. It's funny how some people, I mean, like when you invest in stocks, in the stock market, in Wall Street, in stocks and mutual funds, you you put your money there because again, like you know that that's what everyone does. And when you lose money, I mean, like you say like, well, that's the market. But when you invest in alternative investments like real estate, like uh, oil and energy, like storage or things like that, if there's some problem, you get surprised. But that's an investment. So every investment has pros and cons. Every investment has risks, and it's not necessarily guaranteed, right? Like so, when you're an active investor, if things go south, you're personally held liable, which means you may lose not just the property but also their assets, right? Like so, for example, like you have rental, right? Like and you have a mortgage, right? Like and then like for any reason, I mean, like you don't have tenants and you're not able to pay the mortgage. If for any reason you're not able to pay the mortgage, the bank is going to take the house. But if the house for any reason, I mean, is burned down and has lost its value, the bank is going to against your assets too, your own house, your car, or the things that you may have. To avoid that, you can also put like your properties, your investment properties under an LLC, right? But also you need to understand is more difficult to finance a property under an LLC. So I mean, like at the end, you can do that, but you just need to have some experience, right? Like my wife and I were at the point when we sometimes buy off-market properties under an LLC, and we're doing that in this moment, right? Like, but you cannot just outright and straight like starting like doing this. Passive investments, your liability is limited, very limited, mainly to the capital you invest. Typically, the property is held in an LLC or an LP. So if anything goes terribly wrong, the passive investor doesn't have any liability at all. Like the sponsors are held liable, not the investors. Paperwork, right? And this is don't we love paperwork? I love paperwork from work, from the hospital. Now I need to do paperwork from my investments. And yeah, I mean, like I have learned how to do that, and I'm okay doing that. But not many people like that, right? Like so, paperwork heavy, from the purchase of the property to tracking purchase and rental agreements, bookkeeping, legal documents throughout the project and throughout the ownership, right? Like so, you need to take that into account, right? I sometimes shop around for insurance. My wife, she helps me with litigation for taxes, trying to decrease taxes, right? At the end of the year, I go like to the county or online, but I usually prefer to go in person and pay for the taxes that you cannot imagine how much I pay in property taxes every year. And then I need to keep like a very good record of all the ins and outs, right? Like so, even though I have a property manager and they do a really good job in this, like they have softwares like to for bookkeeping. Still, like there are some other expenses that that for example there are too expensive, right? Like so they usually take care of things that are less than $300, right? Like that they usually have something in savings, like to take care of that. But if it goes over $300, for example, if it's like an AC or like a heater, I mean, like I need like to get out of my pocket, so I need to document that in an Excel spreadsheet or something or some software, so I can give that to my CPA the following year. Right. So, I mean, like it's paperwork heavy. I mean, I would say, I mean, like it gets better when you have systems and you have some experience, but at least at the beginning, it's tough. But again, like as with any investment, as in any activity, it gets better with time. For passive investments in real estate, you typically sign a single PPM, which is the contract, the private placement memorandum, to invest in the property. After that, I mean, it's usually fine. No need to fill out any lender paperwork, insurance. I mean, everything is done by the sponsors, right? Like, and every year, I mean, of course, you get a K1 document that is a tax document that is showing the income and losses. If there's cash flow, it's going to show the cash flow, right? If there's depreciation, then in the property, it's also going to show that. So that's very important to know. And again, like your work mainly as a person is like again like to or as a passive investor is like to bring that K1 document or that tax document to your CPA. Right, like sometimes syndications or these kind of projects are delayed in giving you these tax documents, It's not uncommon that that happens. I mean, honestly, that's the nature of being an investor outside Wall Street. And you just need to coordinate with your CPA to file for extensions. And that's it. Like usually we have extensions. I mean, like I usually file my taxes late in the year, yeah, after June or July. And that's kind of normal, to be honest, for investors outside Wall Street. I see having a team, right? Like when you are an active investor, you need to build your team, your own team, right? Like you need to find like the broker, the realtor. In my case, in the case of my wife and I, we have also wholesalers that helps us to get off market properties, have our property manager, contractors, insurance agents, CPA, etc. When it's a passive investment, you rely mainly on the expertise of the sponsor and deal sponsor team, right? Like, so they are the ones who are the experts. They are supposed to be the ones in the experts in the market where you're investing. Typically, already have a team set up to manage the property. Then diversification, the diversification in geographically. So you in active investments, you would personally need to be an expert in the market and the asset class you're investing in, right? Like, so for example, like my wife and I, we're experts in Dallas Fort Worth, specifically in the Tarrant County, specifically for single family homes and small multifamilies, 2 to 4 units as residential real estate investors, right? Like, so we're knowledgeable on that type of investment, right? But if we want to invest outside our local area, let's say we want to invest in Oklahoma City, we will need to do research in the market. So actually, last year we were considering doing that. Actually, we opened an LLC to invest in Oklahoma. But again, like it's more difficult because you need to build up a team again, right? Like you need to find boots on the ground team, and we needed to visit the area because our lifestyle and because of other activities and investments that we have, we decided we couldn't do it, right? For the passive investor, right? Like you can invest. I mean, if you are, for example, in California and LA, you could have investments in Tennessee, in Texas, in Arizona. Ourselves, we have investments like in different states, right? So you don't need to be an expert, right? You're investing with teams who, again, like it says here, like have done the research and have built strong local teams. And finally, taxes, right? Like so I think I mentioned a little bit about this before. You're an active investor, you're responsible for bookkeeping and to have a record of income and expenses. This gets easier with property manager, right? And pass this to your CPA. As a passive investor, you don't need to do bookkeeping, right? Like you receive everything is done by the sponsor team and the property management team, which is a third party professional company, right? Like if you imagine like some of these properties are 100, 200, 300 units. So they definitely need to have like a full-time property management team on site. And you receive your Schedule K1 every year for your taxes. So again, like to the initial question, should you be an active or passive real estate investor? I mentioned there's no right or wrong answer. It depends on you, right? Like if you're active investor, you are ready to roll up your sleeves and get involved in the various aspects of being a landlord, or like a flipper, like as my wife and I are trying in this moment. Active investing just might be the perfect adventure for you. And again, like you may have the time, you may have the drive, you may have the desire, and you may really like real estate. I would say go for it. And on the other side, passive investments, if your time is limited, I mean, like that happens too, right? Like we're all different. You have the capital to invest, you might consider being a passive investor. In the case of my wife and I, we're active and also we're passive investors. If you're hoping for some middle ground, I mean, this is from one of our blogs. Turnkey rentals can be like an option, right? Like so, these there are companies that take a property and they do like a completely renovation of that. So everything is new. So you would expect if you're a landlord for the first 5 to 10 years at least, everything is going to be fine, right? Like, but life happens and that may be different, right? But I mean, that's an option. And build to rent too. They may provide some control without the huge time investments. Again, like I can pass this presentation to anyone at the end, but if you should take anything from this presentation is when determining which is the right path for you, be sure to factor everything, right? Like your unique situation, goals, interests, tax benefits, family, and time, especially. That's it. I think, like, yeah, I've shown this before. This is our website, Nima Equity. This is our active part in syndications. We invest together with other healthcare professionals and doctors in apartment complexes and development. This is our YouTube channel that we also share. It's, I mean, free education. It's not just indications and a passive investment. It's like it has everything really: mindset, financing, real estate, residential and commercial. I just wanted to have something broad for everyone to have some value for everyone, right? And this is Tony Robbins. We're big in mindset, my wife and I. So knowledge is not power. Knowledge is only potential power. Action is power. Okay, so let me again, as I was telling you guys, I always try to respect like the half an hour because I sometimes go to these other webinars and it's kind of like a very long, and then like you can imagine like sometimes really hard after a long day to follow this. We'll be able to get a copy of this webinar. Yes, absolutely. In the next newsletter, I'll send like a link for the video that will be in our YouTube channel, but also if you want like just send me an email and I can send you the presentation. Okay, yeah. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know. I mean, otherwise, like again, just having like hey Mario, absolutely, man. Yeah, no, I mean, just having this time with you guys is great, and I really enjoy like again like sharing our journey in real estate and in general what have we done lately, right? Like, so again, like we have been very blessed with all the blessings that we have received, and again, like it's just like a way to give it back. And I'm not sure if you guys have Luis. Yes, it's also Nima Equity. It's also Nima Equity, right? Like, so you go to YouTube and you can just type Nima Equity. You can subscribe if you want to. I mean, like, and we have like I think already over over 100 videos. I mean, I'm not sure. Like we post a long video every 2 weeks and shorts also every 2 weeks. So or for people who doesn't have like that much time, like the long videos are like 5 to 7 minutes usually, so they're manageable, right? Like, and yeah, no, so lately again, like as I mentioned at some point, we just bought a property about like a month ago, and we are and you guys know like our bread and butter is like again like commercial real estate, helping teams, uh so we can bring also investors, passive investors with us and invest together. But we're other focus on our area of expertise, I guess it's in single family homes, right? Like, and we have been in long-term rentals for almost 7 years, but this time we're trying to do something different. So we bought a property because the numbers don't completely make sense for rentals in this moment in the area of Dallas Fort Worth. So we're trying to do a flip. So we have already the team in place, and this is something that I shared already in LinkedIn with in our posts, and I will share also like with you guys in the newsletter. Yeah, so that's it. So again, thank you so much for being here today with us. If you guys have any questions, you can put it now, or you can just text me later, you know, or on LinkedIn as a private message. I think also today we're in the half an hour mark, before the half an hour mark, which is great. Okay, so yes, guys. So I hope you guys have a good night, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Yes, that's correct, Luis. Yes. So despite, yeah, I just read so I can read this for the rest of people. I just read that BlackRock, a hedge fund and group, spent some billions into apartment complexes in key cities, LA and Miami. Yeah, and they're playing the more in these cities, as you can imagine, they're playing more the appreciation game, right? Like, so the other areas, like again, like Texas, Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, where you play like a mix, right? Like appreciation with some cash flow. I mean, obviously, in the last 2 years, because of the interest rates, it has been a little bit more difficult to get the cash flow initially, the first year or two, even, right? And there are some properties that are struggling, but again, like that's the usual business plan, right? And it's true. I mean, there are many hedge funds, many private investment firms that are holding in this moment not millions but billions of dollars, just waiting like for the deals that or like the good offerings that are gonna show up probably at mid-year or at the end of in the second part of the year. So that's why we are also kind of excited about what is coming in the next 6 months to a year to 2 years, right? Like there has been a reset in real estate, in commercial real estate. So, but it's, I mean, unfortunately, there have been some struggles with some deals. for our group too, but in general for many groups, for the majority of groups. Thoughts on their aggressiveness in apartments? Yeah. So what happens is that, and I was talking with someone today. We were in a podcast actually. Um, if you think about, like, there have been some headwinds. You you say, interest rates, taxes, insurance have gone up, and all of that. Some rents have not increase or grow like how we expected before, right? But that's temporarily, right? Like, we're here, or at least like what we have discussed before, or my wife and I, we're here not to invest in real estate for 1 year or for 6 months, right? Like, so we're here to invest for decades, right? Like, and there are always going to be like cycles, even in real estate. However, the fundamentals for investing in apartment complexes, or let's say even storage, or let's say mobile parks or single family homes, the fundamentals are strong, are continue to be strong, right? Like, there's a huge deficit in housing in the US, and depending on which data you take, I mean, there's 2 to 5 million units deficit right now. And also in the last few years, the gap between affordability for owning a home and renting has really widened. So again, like, this is again like this unfortunately is not good for the economy in general, but for someone who may want to invest in this for the long term, I mean, like, it's a solid base, right? So yes, yes, absolutely. I believe in that for sure. And then IRMs are due when refinancing is higher due to current rates, and yet it's appearing that renting is best. Yes, for sure. Yes. Yeah, arms. You have single family homes, and you also have commercial, right? Like, and honestly, there are many projects, even in multifamily, in the office space, in malls, that many of these projects are also short terms, right? Like, so they have variable rates the first couple of years, and they have to refinance, right? Like, so it's because, again, like, of the higher interest rates in this moment, that some of these deals may be in trouble, and some of these deals may be forced to be sold, right? Like, and that's where, like, again, like, as I was mentioning before, it may be a good time to start investing in these distress or discounted deals at the end of the year, or the second part of the year, or next year even, right? Like, so yeah, yeah. So again, like, we're gonna be working on a blog in the next few weeks about, like, how expensive it has become to own a home, right? Like, so you need to think about, like, the inflation, and how the prices of these single family homes are more expensive. On top of that, the insurance is more expensive. On top of that, the taxes are more expensive, and also, like, your mortgage is more expensive, but also the cost of maintaining a home, the cost of electricity, the cost of the services are way higher, right? Like, so again, like, the cost of owning a home has skyrocketed in the last few years. So yeah, no, I mean, and that could be also a good topic for conversation in the next webinars. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. So again, like, hope you guys have a good night, and I hope to see you guys again in next month. Bye bye.